And we are back. We are finally back. New year, new me, new mad lads. And we're going to start the year off with someone interesting. Someone who you might call a bit of a thrill seeker. You know, thrill seekers, the people that like to leap out of planes, leap off buildings, tightrope across huge chasms, go bungee jumping. The OG stuntman, the OG thrill seeker. This man turned his bones to dust for your entertainment. Evel Knievel.
What's up, Royal Spartan Tribe? This is Royal Spartan 125, back for yet another great reaction. Okay, this is absolute Mad Lads, Evel Knievel. I've been looking forward to this one. Okay, let's jump in.
We're only sort of semi-interested, not really bothered about filming the event. They bought the rights to the crash footage like that, and they paid way more for the rights to the footage than they would originally have paid if they just came and filmed the event themselves like Evel asked them to.
Yeah.
Evel was now famous. Even though he completely failed the jump, destroyed his body, and nearly died, this was still great PR. Evel wanted to continue his career as a stuntman and capitalise on his newfound fame. The only problem was absolutely nowhere would insure him. Even Lloyd's of London, who had the unofficial motto, "We insure anyone," rejected Evel Knievel 37 times. 5 months after the Caesars Palace crash, when Evel had fully recovered, he tried to do a jump in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he attempted to jump 15 Ford Mustangs. But he crashed again, breaking his leg and his foot. But again, this just earned him even more PR, and loads of places were kicking Evel Knievel's door in, trying to book him, and they knew they only had a small window to get him booked, because if they didn't book him fast enough, then he would eventually get into another accident, and then they would need to wait 3 to 6 months for him to recover.
I thought he was going to say we were possibly going to die and then they'd lose any chance of booking him. Which is probably another reason why they were so desperate to get him before he kicked it, you know? But yeah, oh my god. Like, nobody would insure him, can you blame them? And he keeps going back. If you, like, it's not that. As I say, if he had been successful, not as many people would want him. You know what I mean? Obviously, he'd still be famous, people would still want to book him and stuff, but not to the extent that he was getting now, you know what I mean? It's only because he crashes and people want to see that. They want to see the carnage. That's it. That's what he's famous for, not stunts. The end where he crashes and crushes his body. That's what they want to see. You know what I mean? That's nuts. But I totally get it. Yeah, totally.
And they knew they only had a small window to get him booked, because if they didn't book him fast enough, then he would eventually get into another accident, and then they would need to wait 3 to 6 months for him to recover before they could try and book him again. Evel was making around $25,000 per performance, plus sponsorships on top of that. Yes, even Evel Knievel was sponsored by Red Shadow Legends. But the biggest sponsorships he was getting was from motorcycle companies. Motorcycle companies were fighting each other tooth and nail to get Evel Knievel to ride their motorcycles, because having Evel Knievel ride your company's motorcycles was probably the best advertising that a motorcycle company could get at the time.
Yeah.
He continued having successful jumps until October of 1968 in Carson's, Nevada, where Evel Knievel crashed again, breaking his hip and his shoulder. Evel still continued doing all of his successful jumps, but he was always trying to improve on them and make them more spectacular. More cars, longer distances, faster speeds.
No, I know. I haven't heard many of his stunts, to be honest with you. I don't want to know what most of them are. But I do know a few.
Successful jumps. But he was always trying to improve on them and make them more spectacular. More cars, longer distances, faster speeds. Always trying to really push himself to his limit. But there was one jump that he always wanted to do, and one day he just came out and announced that he was going to do it. He was going to jump the Grand Canyon.
I just said that.
And he would do it because Evel Knievel had a principle, a very strong principle that he strongly believed in. And that principle was a man should always keep his word. So when Evel said he was going to do something, he was going to fucking do it.
Yep.
However, Evel first had to get permission from the United States government to be allowed to actually do the jump. He negotiated with them to try and secure a site that the jump would take place at, and he was also working on various concept bikes to actually do the jump with. But after months and months of negotiation, eventually the Interior Department declined to give Evel Knievel airspace over the Grand Canyon for him to do the jump. So Evel Knievel had to abandon the whole project. Evel tried to think of other amazing jumps that he could possibly replace the Grand Canyon jump with. He considered possibly jumping the Mississippi River. He also considered jumping from one skyscraper to the other in New York City. But while he was flying home from an event, he looked out of his plane window and he seen Snake River Canyon. And he thought that that would be a suitable substitute for the Grand Canyon. But not just yet. Not just yet. This is something that would take a lot of planning, and he had other events to do in the meantime. In February of 1971, in Ontario, California, Evel Knievel planned to break a world record. And he actually managed to successfully pull this stunt off and set a world record that wouldn't be broken for 27 years. Evel Knievel managed to successfully jump 19 fucking cars. But in May of that year, in Yakima, Washington, Evel Knievel suffered another accident. He was going to jump 13 Pepsi trucks, but the problem with the jump was that in order for him to hit the ramp at the correct angle, he was going to have to start on the tarmac, cut onto the grass, and then back onto the tarmac. This sudden change in terrain made Evel Knievel worried that he wasn't going to be able to build up enough speed. But despite this problem, Evel Knievel decided he was going to do the jump anyway. Due to him not having enough speed and approach, he hit the landing ramp at the wrong angle and ended up being launched from his bike, hitting the ground hard and skidding along the ground for about 50 feet. This resulted in him breaking his collarbone, both of his legs, and getting a compound fracture in his arm. In March of 1972 in Daly City, California, Evel Knievel was giving a pre-stunt speech to the crowd, and Evel Knievel's pre-stunt speeches usually contained a very strong anti-drug message, warning all the kids in the crowd to stay away from drugs. And in these speeches he would very often speak out against a motorcycle gang that were very well known for selling drugs. And that was the Hells Angels, and Evel Knievel and the Hells Angels had a long history of hating each other. This speech apparently resulted in Hells Angels who were in the crowd getting pissed off, and they threw a tire iron at Evel Knievel. This kicked off a small-scale riot in which members of the crowd started beating the absolute shit out of the 15 Hells Angels, sending 3 of them to hospital. Once everything had calmed down, Evel Knievel went ahead with the jump. Unfortunately, his front tyre came down too hard and he was launched from the bike and pretty much just launched right through and out of the arena entrance hallway, only just narrowly missing having his entire body slamming right into a concrete wall. This crash resulted in a broken back and severe concussion. And I know I probably shouldn't be making jokes about this, but the way the footage looks, it looks like he's went, fucked up the jump, you know what, fuck this, I'm leaving. Knievel returned to jumping in November of 1973 at a show in Los Angeles.
Wait a minute. He broke his back? And his back... What? What's this guy made of? Seriously? Did they put him back together with duct tape and concrete or something? What? What the hell?
About this, but the way the footage looks, it looks like he's went, fucked up the jump, you know what, fuck this, I'm leaving. Knievel returned to jumping in November of 1973 at a show in Los Angeles where he successfully jumped 50 stacked cars, setting a new world record that would remain unbroken for 35 years.
Woo.
Then it was time to arrange the biggest jump that he had ever attempted. Since the government wasn't going to let him jump the Grand Canyon, he opted for the next best thing, Snake River Canyon. Now, this jump was going
Maybe
to take
that's
a
what it
lot
was.
of planning and a lot of money.
Mhm.
And it did end up becoming a huge spectacle. Such a spectacle that people still talk about this jump to this day, but not for the best reasons.
Oh,
Knievel
God.
obviously wanted the event to be televised, but none of the TV agencies were willing to pay the very large amount that Knievel was demanding, so Evel Knievel arranged for other companies to film the event for him. He also got some big name investors in the event, like boxing promoter Bob Arum, and even Vince McMahon of the WWF. These guys invested their own time and money in hiring staff, hiring equipment, doing the PR, doing the media stuff, doing everything. These guys put their own time and money into doing everything so that Evel Knievel had nothing else to focus on but the jump. Now, the jump was a hell of a long distance. A really long distance. No bike, no matter
Oh.
what bike it was, and no matter how fast it was going,
Uh-huh.
could make this jump. No bike
No.
existed that could make this jump. So Evel Knievel hired an aeronautical engineer to build him a rocket-powered motorcycle. The first design, although
Yeah, I heard about
fast,
this.
wasn't good enough for the jump because it behaved more like a motorcycle than a rocket. So the aeronautical engineer went back to the drawing board and came back with the Skycycle X2,
Oh.
which was so fast and so aerodynamic that it had to be legally registered as an aircraft. The event took place in September of 1984, and a massive crowd had gathered to watch this stunt, with many of them cheering and greeting Evel Knievel as he arrived. This was very easily the most dangerous jump that Evel Knievel had ever attempted, so just in case
I can't remember if he actually did the jump successfully or not. There's a chance he may not have. He may not have. I remember seeing footage of a parachute. So I don't know if it was that jump or not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hold on. Hold on.
84, and a massive crowd had gathered to watch this stunt, with many of them cheering and greeting Evel Knievel as he arrived. This was very easily the most dangerous jump that Evel Knievel had ever attempted, so just in case anything did go wrong, to make sure that medical staff could get to him, there were professional rock climbers and a helicopter on standby. The Skycycle was strapped into the launch pad, and Evel Knievel was strapped into the Skycycle.
Oh.
It kind of looks like they're going to try and send him into fucking space. The organisers were performing their safety checks and waiting for the wind to die down, while the whole crowd that had gathered waited with bated breath for the countdown. But of course, something went wrong. Even though the launch was perfect and Evel was clearly going to make it because he was almost at the other side of the canyon at a good altitude, the Skycycle's emergency parachute prematurely deployed, slowing Evel down and causing him to actually start drifting back into the canyon. The crowd, who were just about to start cheering because it looked like Evel Knievel was clearly going to make it, were all now screaming, and all they can do was sit and helplessly watch as Evel Knievel slowly drifted down to the bottom of the canyon. What made the situation even worse is that as the Skycycle was descending, Evel Knievel could see that he was probably going to land in the river. So he started trying to disengage his safety harness so that when he landed in the river, he could get out the vehicle and swim to safety. The problem was, the safety harness was stuck. Evel Knievel was stuck in the vehicle, which meant that if he landed in the river, he was going to drown. Luckily, he just missed the river by a few feet, landing on the bank and only sustaining minor injuries. The helicopter team instantly went down into the canyon to grab Evel Knievel and carry him to safety. Now, there are a few theories about what could possibly have went wrong. Some people believe it just genuinely was a technical malfunction.
The Hells Angels sabotaged it. Yeah, I believe that. That's my theory. That's my theory. The Hells Angels did it as revenge. Oh, God. See if this is actually a theory. I'm gonna. Oh.
Theories about what could possibly have went wrong. Some people believe it just genuinely was a technical malfunction. But some people have said that Evel Knievel pulled his emergency chute on purpose to purposefully fail the jump, because Evel Knievel had learned at that point that not his successful jumps, but his crashes is what made national news. They were the things that everybody's seen.
True.
They were the things that gave him the most
that.
PR. So a lot of people accused Evel Knievel of failing this jump on purpose to get maximum PR.
Does he do it again?
There are a few problems with that theory. Personally, I feel if Evel Knievel managed to make the jump, that would have generated much more media attention. And I also don't think that Evel Knievel would willingly pull his emergency chute and allow himself to fall into a fucking canyon for a bit of PR.
No.
So I don't think he did that on purpose.
No.
Nonetheless, the event still made nationwide news. After this event, Evel Knievel returned to his standard motorcycle jumps, and he did many successful jumps until a performance at London's Wembley Stadium when he attempted to jump over 13 buses. Evel came down too hard, causing his bike to bounce and launching him from it, where he lost grip of the handlebars and he slammed into the ground hard and drifted for many feet, and when he came to a stop, his bike landed on top of him. This resulted in him shattering his pelvis. Evel seemed different after this jump. The pain was excruciating and it triggered something in him that his team had never seen. Evel Knievel seemed defeated. You know, even after crashes where he's seriously injured, he would still be in good spirits, but this time he wasn't. Something was different. And despite being in excruciating pain, Evel Knievel asked the organiser for a microphone, and he delivered a message to the crowd that shocked everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen of this wonderful country, I've got to tell you that you are the last people in the world who will ever see me jump, because I will never, ever jump again. I'm through.
Everyone was shocked. Evel's fans started freaking out because this was the first time they'd ever seen him like this. Usually he would just do his usual 6 months in the hospital, and then as soon as he was better, he'd be back on the bike doing stunts, but not this time. This was the first time that Evel's fans had ever seen him lose his confidence. However, this was obviously just said in the heat of the moment, because as soon as Evel Knievel was better, in October of 1975, he jumped 14 buses, setting a new world record that would remain unbroken for 24 years. He did, after this, announce his retirement again. Probably a better time to do it, you know, ending your career on a record-setting high note. But again, this didn't last very long, and he was straight back into jumping. Then in January of 1977, Evel Knievel decided that he was going to do another huge jump that was inspired by the movie Jaws that had only just come out 2 years earlier in the cinema.
Don't tell me. He's gonna jump a tank full of sharks. Oh god. This guy's got a death wish. Yeah, it's gotta be. He doesn't just want to die in the old, any old normal way. No, he has to die in a spectacular way. That's the only thing, you know what I mean? This one's going to be over an hour long. We're going to have to cut it in 2 parts.
Then in January of 1977, Evel Knievel decided that he was going to do another huge jump that was inspired by the movie Jaws that had only just come out 2 years earlier in the cinema. Evel Knievel was going to jump over a tank of live sharks. And it was going to be televised live. The jump, however, ended up getting cancelled and not happening at all, because during warm-up jumps, Evel Knievel came down the landing ramp at a wrong angle and crashed directly into a cameraman. Evel broke both of his arms in the stunt, and the cameraman suffered an eye injury and a lot of bruising. But Evel was absolutely distraught by this, because this was the first time ever in one of his stunts that someone else had been injured. Evel Knievel was absolutely fine with hurting himself, and he was absolutely fine with footage of him hurting himself being plastered all over TV, but he was so distraught at the fact that he hurt another person, that he cancelled the entire event and banned this footage from being shown. The only reason we have this footage is because it was shown in a documentary 19 years later. After this, Evel Knievel was only focused on doing smaller shows featuring himself, but his primary focus was on launching the career of his son, Bobby Knievel, who wanted to follow in his father's footsteps, and he did eventually become a famous stuntman just like his father. But the problem was the winter years of Evel Knievel's career were not great. While Evel Knievel was recovering from his injuries in the Shark Tank crash, a man called Sheldon Saltman, who was VP at 20th Century Fox, wrote a book about Evel Knievel, claiming that he did drugs and that he was very abusive to his wife and children, and that he, in general, was a very abusive man. Evel Knievel was absolutely furious about these statements, and he said that they were complete lies. So Evel Knievel and some of his entourage got on a plane and headed to California to confront Sheldon. They managed to track Sheldon down and confronted him outside of a studio, at which point one of Knievel's entourage held Sheldon in place, while Evel Knievel, both of his arms in casts, used a metal baseball bat to beat Sheldon over the head and body while yelling, "I'm going to kill you." Really proving Sheldon to be a liar and proving that he is in fact not an abusive man. Knievel knocked Sheldon unconscious, and Sheldon suffered a shattered arm and shattered wrist, which required a lot of surgeries and metal plates to fix. Evel Knievel was arrested and charged with battery, and he was found guilty and sentenced to 6 months in prison. Due to the assault and conviction, Evel Knievel lost all of his sponsors and all of his marketing deals. The worst one of all was Ideal Toys. Evel Knievel had a partnership with Ideal Toys to produce Evel Knievel action figures, stunt ramps, motorbikes, just all kinds of toys and merchandise that were bringing Evel Knievel in a lot of money. And after the assault conviction, Ideal Toys just dropped him completely. That was it. The toys were gone, the merchandise was gone, the money was gone.
Wow.
But the worst one that affected Evel Knievel the most was he lost his sponsorship from Harley Davidson. To make matters even worse, Sheldon actually won a civil suit against Evel Knievel over the assault, and Evel Knievel was ordered to pay Sheldon $13 million in damages. So that, on top of no money from jumps, no money from merchandise, no money from sponsors, Evel Knievel had no choice but to file for bankruptcy. Knievel resorted to other ways of making money. He started travelling around the country selling pieces of art that were apparently painted by him, but he did make a little bit of a comeback in the 90s when he became a celebrity spokesperson for Little Caesars and Harley Davidson. In 1999, Evel Knievel and the motorcycles that he used were inducted into the Motorcycle Hall of Fame, and most notably of all these is the motorcycle that became attributed to Evel Knievel because it was the one that he used in most of his jumps, and it's the one that became famous because of Evel Knievel, and that's the Harley Davidson XR750, which is suspended in the air above a ramp in tribute to Evel Knievel. In 2005, Evel Knievel was going to host his last ever motorcycle ride, and that's where members of the public can turn up on their motorcycles and go on a ride with Evel Knievel. The purpose of this ride was a fundraiser for the victims of Hurricane Katrina. The problem was, as the event was approaching, Evel Knievel suffered a minor stroke, and because of this stroke, he wasn't actually able to ride his motorcycle, but he did still turn up to the event to sign autographs. And now we're approaching the final years of Evel Knievel's life, and the problem with having a career where you're constantly annihilating your entire body is that later in life that can give you an awful lot of health complications. Shocking, I know. Early in his career, Evel Knievel contracted hepatitis C, and a lot of people think that this hepatitis came from one of the very, very many blood transfusions that Evel had to get, after each accident. And because he had hepatitis for a long time, it severely impacted his health and most of all his liver. And in the 90s, he actually needed a liver transplant. There's a sort of a strange, sort of poetic, weird thing about how the liver transplant came about. Basically, Evel Knievel and his family were waiting a long time for a donor who was a match, but none ever turned up. So the doctors eventually told Evel Knievel that he, at best, had a few days, possibly a week, left to live. Evel Knievel asked the doctors if he could be released from the hospital so that he could be at home and die surrounded by his family. The doctors agreed to this and they let Evel Knievel leave the hospital. However, as soon as Evel Knievel got home, they got a call from the hospital telling him to come back immediately because a young man had died who was an organ donor and he was a match. And the weird thing about it is the young man died in a motorcycle accident. In 2005, Evel Knievel was diagnosed with an incurable terminal lung disease and he was required to be on supplemental oxygen for 24 hours a day. He also had to have an internal body morphine pump installed to help him cope with the constant pain that he was always in from all of the injuries that he'd sustained throughout his entire life, and he also ended up suffering 2 strokes. Evel Knievel's health kept deteriorating, and then in November of 2007, while he was at home with a friend, his friend noticed that he wasn't breathing properly. So his friend called for an ambulance that came and took Evel Knievel to the hospital. But unfortunately, he died on the way there. Evel Knievel was buried at Mountain View Cemetery in his hometown of Butte, and the town treated his funeral like a massive affair. There was thousands of people in the streets, there was fireworks going off, there was people partying and celebrating Evel Knievel's life, and the eulogy at his funeral was actually delivered by Matthew McConaughey. Evel Knievel's legacy lives on though. He's had countless documentaries made about him, he's had movies made about him, he's had books written about him, and he gets referenced constantly as well in pop culture, and he's been parodied many times in cartoons like The Simpsons.
Ladies and gentlemen, and especially little children, I'm glad you're all here to witness what may very well be my grisly death.
He made it!
He is widely considered as the Daredevil. I mean, whenever you say Daredevil, Evel Knievel is probably the first name that pops into your head.
Yeah.
I mean, even his jumpsuit became iconic. Everybody knows what Evel Knievel's jumpsuit looks like. I mean, you even get modern stunt bikers to this day who wear Evel Knievel's jumpsuit in tribute to him. You know, the most well-known one is Travis Pastrana, who on many occasions has worn Evel Knievel's iconic jumpsuit while he's doing stunts because Travis Pastrana is a huge fan of Evel Knievel. The moment that launched Evel Knievel's career was the moment he slammed into the concrete outside of Caesar's Palace. But despite that being the jump that launched his career, he never ever attempted it again. Evel Knievel never actually managed to successfully jump the fountains of Caesar's Palace. But in 1989, his son, who had decided to follow in his father's footsteps, returned to Caesar's Palace and avenged his father.
The first person to successfully jump the mountains of Caesar's Palace, avenging his father, the legendary Evel Knievel.
But the curious thing about Evel Knievel's career is, you know, it's true that the crashes is what got him the most PR. You know, that horrific footage of him just slamming into concrete at high speed is what people saw the most of, and that was the stuff that got his name out there the most.
Yeah.
But see, when you look at his failed jumps compared to his successful jumps, he did far more successful jumps than he had crashes. A lot more. But the reason everybody knows about him, and the footage that most people have seen of him, is his crashes. Says a lot about the human condition.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Evel Knievel's story. A man who absolutely destroyed his body to entertain people. I mean, it's not even known how many bones he's broken throughout his entire career, because even he didn't know when he was asked. But some people believe it's anything between 30 to 50 bones, and that's just bone breaks, right? That doesn't include the hundreds of fractures and dozens of concussions. He ended up earning the nickname The Last Gladiator because he was a man who would step into the arena and face down death for your entertainment. And before we go, I just want to read a quote from him that he said in one of his last ever interviews before he died. "You can't ask a guy like me why I performed. I really wanted to fly through the air. I was a daredevil, a performer. I loved the thrill, the money, the whole macho thing. All those things made me Evel Knievel. Sure, I was scared. You got to be an ass not to be scared. But I beat the hell out of death." Fucking mad lad.
Alright.
Let's put you down around, you can put it in the micro. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My chicken tendies.
I don't have chicken tendies.
I was making a joke about me.
Oh. I actually think with the chicken tendies I have it cold.
It's usually Twitter that takes my jokes literally. But do we have chicken tendies?
No, I just told you no. There's vegan chicken nuggets.
Get out.
They're tasty.
Get out. Get out.
They're delicious.
Get out.
They're delicious.
Get the fuck out. Don't want to smoke near the dog. Look at this absolute demon.
There you go.
His face is that fucking ugly that the camera doesn't want to focus on.
Oh, he's so handsome.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's so handsome.
He
Look
is,
at him.
he is a demon spawned from hell.
Oh, he looks dead good in that camera.
No, he doesn't.
Hanson, it's your turn. Give me a... Let me
A
see.
fucking 4K camera couldn't make him pretty.
Oh no. You can see these things about the devil, but you can't see them about the
Darling, I don't know how to tell you this, but our dogs are fucking ugly.
Shh, don't listen. Look at the camera. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, look at that face. Oh my god, he's so handsome.
No, he's not. He's an absolutely ugly bastard.
He's handsome.
He's ugly.
He's
Get
handsome.
out my face.
He's so handsome.
Okay, guys. That's the end of the video. Man, that was a long one. Whew. What was it? 53 minutes long? Oh, and on my thing it's still recording. And it says 1 hour and 23 minutes. I'm going to have to cut this one in half. You'll probably see it. Which means I'll have to do an outro for the first half as well. So this is the end of part 2. Yeah. And, wow, that was a long one. My butt is killing me after that one. I'm glad I left it to the end, because I wouldn't want to do another one after this. But yeah, this is the last one I'll be recording before New Year. So it'll be a week to the day. Next Monday, this is Monday right now. So next Monday, I'll be doing recordings again. So until next time, I am out of here.